Okay. All right, let's begin. So, Lilith, tell us a little bit more about this projection you've made. Lilith, your turn.
My unmute. Okay. Actually,
Lilith, we're currently unable to hear you. Try maybe refreshing your browser a bit.
Okay.
H2 payday. Oh, Alvin, what's H2? Oh, you can hear Lilith. Alvin, try saying something.
Could you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, all right. Maybe I forgot to turn the volume on. Hey, welcome in, Viddy. All right, welcome in, Lilith. Lilith.
Hi, sir.
Yes, Viddy. Good afternoon. Lilith, say something.
Okay. Basically, I still using the mirroring way to get projection. The first part that I do is surveying the average price for it's not the average, it's the base price for the projected property, and from some property around the Villa Arjuna, which is in Galalang. It's basically in the Galalang. And then from 7 property, I get the base price. It is about 80.
Okay.
And then I try to find the similar property in Bukit Vista that handled by Bukit Vista. This one, actually, I choose the Villa Olel here because, but I take the data that I take here is the occupancy data, where I got this percentage from the Tokit, from the dashboard, the Tokit dashboard, and then I buy it into the listing, which here I plan to sell the Arjuna by 2 bedrooms. So I choose the average occupancy of the first listing.
Okay, got it.
And then I try to determine the minimum revenue that I can provide to the property, which is around $972.
Okay.
And then how do I calculate the projection? You please click the link, sir. The property project.
Here we go. Oh, access denied. Need to get access. So
I will
send you a request.
Okay, wait. Yeah, I haven't received your request, sir.
Okay. I've let's see. Our request. Okay, request has been set.
Okay. Property projection. Actually, I didn't receive your request, sir. So can I just share my screen first?
Sure. Let's go over to Lilith's screen. Okay.
So this one. First, this is the amount of monthly revenue, the minimum monthly revenue, and then the average occupancy, which I get from our property, the mirror property, and then I target 60% occupancy because from the Villa Olel and 2 bed in the first listing, which is 2 bedroom, the highest occupancy that we can provide is 60%. And then the selling price margin here from the Trello, I got it 50% for the BV. And I add also the Airbnb fee here.
Okay.
And then first, I set the base price by decreasing it actually by adding it. By adding it actually. Sorry, sir. By adding it. Because the base price means the minimum that we sell to give the owner. So because we have the Airbnb fee, so we add the price by 3%.
Okay.
And then this is the projected selling price. This is including the first strategy on March, which is I would like to give discount, like for example 30% for the first month, and then for the next one I input the seasonality factors, which is this one, the month per month revenue change from the Villa Olel, which is here. I calculate it actually manually because we don't have direct to this data. And then after expecting the projected selling price, then I calculate this one, three kind of revenue, which is the highest revenue, median, and lowest revenue.
Mm-hmm.
The highest revenue I get from 60% occupancy with the projected selling price, this one.
Okay.
And then the second, the median is 60% occupancy with the base price, this one. So this is actually, yeah, without beefy fee.
Okay.
And then the last one is the lowest from 40% occupancy and also the base price, this one, without beefy fee. And then I got these three kind of revenue. So basically, I propose the highest here. Because compared to Villa Olel, the price still makes sense if I use this one. And what's is a bit strange here, because I'm only using a single data from Villa Olel. I have decreased for about 45% on October, that drive the revenue very low. One. And I still considered to try to use another similar property actually. Maybe that's all from me for my projection.
Okay. All right. Let's take a look at what the final shape is. Thank you very much, Nicholas, for the presentation. Let's take a look and see what we have here. Let's go over to Alvin. Alvin, how do you feel about the shape of this graphic so far?
To be honest, kind of weird for me.
Yeah.
I think the question itself, because you only use OLL. First of all, I don't know about OLL, but have you already double checked regarding the cleanliness of the OLL itself, the occupancy? I see that you're using the occupancy from top dashboard as your multiplier, basically. But if you see that actually October is getting very low on it, maybe you need to double check what happened actually on October. There's a possibility that actually it get blocked, or maybe there's also other possibility of it.
Right.
Yeah, I think so. I think I should check for the October, but I haven't checked it yet.
Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. So if we go back to look at Villa Olel, the one issue that I see here, and this is good that revenue managers can detect it too, is that this isn't a very clean property actually. So we see a lot of contamination on the bookings from the owner side, and there is, back in April it was pretty okay, but then as you got further through the year, let's say to a month like October, let's take a look at that. what my hypothesis is that there's quite a bit of dates that have been taken by the owner, which makes it sort of hard to calculate what the regular revenue should be. So let's wait for the results to show up in the meantime. Alvin, what would you do in this particular case? Let's say you have a case where, oh well, that's odd. Excuse me. Okay. Okay. Let's take a look at this. So we have actually mostly bookings by our bookings, but why is it so low? Why is it so low?
Question, Lilis, using occupancy, right? Not revenue.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, wait. Revenue for the seasonality, but the occupancy it's only used for determining the minimum occupancy that we can make for the villa.
Yeah.
But the seasonality, I use the revenue, the monthly revenue.
Okay. All right. Got it. Let's go over back to Alvin here. Alvin, in the case where we don't, let's say, necessarily have. Wait. I almost question this data, Alvin, right? Because what I see in October is I see a lot of bookings actually, but it seems to be underreporting the revenue. Does it look that way to you too, or something else?
I want to open Bukit Vista right now, actually. Also, do double check on Bukit Vista.
All right, thank you. Okay, let's go to Vidi. Vidi, let's say we have this condition here. We have a condition where the property is not fully controlled by us. There's, let's say, contamination on the booking calendar from the owner side. So there's going to be some owner bookings. There's going to be some of this. So it would actually show a seasonality that doesn't reflect what real seasonality can be. Can we still use this as a comparison property, or should we do something else?
Well, for me, I think for Bukit Vista itself, we do not consider we consider the contamination as resources as a resource that is not available there, basically. But then the seasonality of the market itself, it should also consider the bookings made by the owner, basically.
Okay. All right. So back to Lilis then. Lilis, in this particular case, I think we're dealing with a challenging situation. So we have a challenge because we don't have any comparison property in Ubud that has, let's say, the same set of parameters in terms of how it will be managed as the one that we're looking at right here. So if we look at Villa Olel, we can see that, especially recently, let's say back in, if you go to March, I saw that almost more than 50% of the bookings are actually coming from the owner. So if that's the case, it doesn't mean necessarily that the revenue will reflect the seasonality, but it's just that it's dark revenue. It's revenue that we can't measure. So we need to come up with a solution for these cases because we do have quite a bit of them. Part of it is already being fixed. Our market developers no longer accept partnerships where we have, where we have these inconclusive agreements where the owner can do what they want and such. So let's say in the absence of, hey Bayu, welcome in. Good timing.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Bayu. All right.
I'm taking my microphone.
Bayu, let me welcome you in. This is actually pretty crucial. So Bayu, tell us what's going on with Tableau right now, because I'm trying to understand it a little bit better myself. Because of leap year, you're saying we can't see.
Yes. Yeah, Bayu, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Jing, I need to go. I have a meeting.
Oh, okay. All right, got it.
Okay, yeah, let me know.
Okay. All right. So what I was hoping to get Bayu to explain was maybe Vidi, you've heard about it. We can't see past leap year on Tableau, which is really weird. It's like a Y2K problem.
Yeah,
Okay.
I discussed with Mr. Bayu earlier this morning because I had some problems when trying to make the projection myself. And I suspect that I think in the database it's hard coded that Like for example, you have 30 days and it's hard coded for 30 days, and therefore there's an error. Because I heard that it also happened earlier this new year, during the transition for the new year. I heard that there's also not this kind of problem. So, but Mr. Bayu said that he fixed the new year problem, but maybe the leap year problem just occurred this one time.
Oh, wow.
There's a hard code, I think, in the database probably, because it takes the data from Bigger, right?
Right.
While Bigger takes the data from our database. So
I see.
probably that's no problem.
How fascinating. Okay. All right. Interesting issue. Lilith, do you understand the issue that we're facing right now?
I don't really understand. I mean, the workflow, how we get data into Tableau, but the things that I see, we don't have any accurate data now. So if we want, because I see also when I during my trial, when I record the revenue for February, for example, for the previous year, it seems different when I record it now. So I actually I want to know how it can be like that. I mean, like I want to understand more about that.
Okay. If you do see a data discrepancy issue, always be sure to document that. That way we can take a look and see what specifically is going on. Alvin, Vidi, Lilis, Shinthia, this is something else. What's happened right now is because of leap year, which is February 29th, it only happens once every 4 years, it has actually messed up the database because apparently the cutoff dates do not take into account of leap year, because leap year only happens once every 4 years. So basically, we have a data reporting problem now where we cannot see what has happened after February 29th, which is a little bit frustrating. I'm trying to work with Bayou to actually see what's going on there. So that's the current problem that we have. All the data that we... Oh, welcome back, Bayou.
Okay. So maybe just a quick explanation?
Yes, please.
Okay.
All right, go ahead and share the screen.
Okay, so this is, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so this is the normal one, not modified. Basically, everything is stopped on the February 29th. And then, okay, let's see. I will just duplicate to make sure it's not messing up with the old one. 29. Okay, so basically, if I remove all of the filter, it's still not showing up all the 29th booking, right? But if I remove the timestamp, basically, I can see that. Not this one. Wait. So this is very weird. This one. Hard to see. So basically what happened, I can show you in the weekly sales. We have the, not weekly sales, it's easier in revenue. In March, you can view data. Okay, so we have the booking that now it's gone. Oh. Let me see. I think I sent you this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, let me see, that's different than the database. Okay, I need to, this one, okay. So, the one that is not recorded, I don't know if this is something to do with UTC or not, but basically the date of the booking received cannot be saved as the 29th. If the data is there, we see on the check-in date, it's fine. So basically, we can still show the on the February revenue, it still include the bookings that actually booked for that day. But for the booking pace, we cannot see that because there is no 29th of February basically. So it's like saying that we want to see the data for 32nd of January, something like that.
Ah.
So yeah, I'm not sure why this happened. I look out for Tableau for that kind of information. I still haven't found yet. But the one that I'm working on now, basically, this is just a hack. I'm trying to do not using the date, but the the number of date between today and the date that is there. So basically, we will just create that tomorrow is today -1. So tomorrow is the 1 day ago, and then the day before yesterday. I mean, yesterday is just the day one day ago, and then 2 days before today is just 2 days ago, something like that. Maybe just for now, but I'm still looking for any solution and actually just an explanation for why this happened. Actually, I'm not sure.
All right, this sounds like a pretty exotic type problem. Lilith, you mentioned before that there was also some other data inaccuracies. Have you notified Bayu about any of those findings yet?
Sorry, sir?
You mentioned also just before that there's also some data inaccuracies going about your trials. Bayu, are you aware of these inaccuracies that Lilith has surfaced?
Which one?
Okay, so Lilith, please make sure Bayu sees what we consider as inaccuracies so that we can get the Tableau right. This is pretty fundamental to our entire operation. Okay, Bayu, in the meantime, we're sort of floating in the blind right now. We don't know what our booking pace is. We don't know where we're going.
You just check on the booking feed, the one that night shift always share after their turn, basically. That's the summary of the booking today with the current date.
Okay, got it. Let's just still check and see if night shift shared that so far. I don't think. Oh, here. Is this it? No.
No. The one screenshot from Slack. Yeah.
Here this is. Yeah. No? Okay. All right. Looks like night shift is.
No. This is called summary. Oh, Alvin, what is it called? What is the message called?
Wait.
What was? Sorry.
The summary that the night shift used to
Daily summary.
The daily summary. That's one on the booking feed, right?
I have it. If you want, I wish to share my screen.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Sorry, I need to go out a little bit. 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for the update, Alvin. Okay. All right. So we'll have to be able to use a different reference right now for the.
This one.
Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. I see it. Thank you. Thank you, Lilith. Okay. Let's see. March 2nd. Oh God. Okay. What is the total on that? That's about 73. 73, 74, 7 cancellations. Okay. Got it. And then. Okay, so we'll have to use a Slack feed until the. What is it that the intercalendary is fixed? Oh, I was saying to Lilith, we'll have to use a Slack feed until we figure out this space problem between the leap year. Okay. Interesting. That is really interesting. I never expected to run into that kind of issue before. So that is a very exotic issue. And Vidi.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen this before?
Yeah. I've seen this before. Time especially time zones, leap years are a common problem in computer science. It's quite difficult. Usually, even a lot of websites uses Google's method to deal with this kind of problem. But I haven't seen the code for Tableau, so I'm not sure if it's the common issue. But yeah, time like Y2K all over again, right?
Yeah, that feels like that. Okay, got it. All right, that's fun. Discovering something new. All right, Vidi, did you have another projection for this property? Okay.
Yeah. I tried making one, but it's not. I'm not sure, but I'll try to show it.
Give it a shot. Let's see what we can do. Okay. And in the meantime, here, go ahead and take it away, Vidi.
Let's see, right? Okay, so can everyone see the screen?
Yep. Okay.
So what I made is I kind of didn't use the calculator because of some reasons. First is I handled 2 new properties in Nusa Penida actually, and the projections made by the calculator is quite off by quite a lot. Due to the sheer kind of like it's very constant in the sense the constants are not dynamic because it doesn't take account that we have to adapt to the listings. So I kind of took basically these are the data I took from the database. We have property type, bedrooms, designs, and also all those kind of stuff to get the mirror property. And I pulled the booking data for Ubud region for the last 6 months from October 2019 to March 2020, and I got this result basically. So we have these are all the bookings, and from the bookings I can create my own occupancy based on our bookings basically. So I didn't have to count from from Tokit basically.
Okay.
So these are the average occupancy, quite rough, and these are all filtered to villas, and those villas are still up with us. So these are the average occupancy and so on and so forth. I have these numbers, and from these numbers, I found out that some of these villas have similar properties according to the database. I rely a lot to the data because it's a preparation for the machine learning stuff. But so mind that I have the sum of nights, and I divided. I calculated the number of listings it has, and take all of that into account, and get the average occupancy of 6 months. Sorry. From there, I found similar features, which has an area of Ubud, type is villa, and the property status is 1, along with some other properties such as property design, proximity, life support, and services. So I give them like a score to how similar it is to consider them as a mere property, and the result is that Alam Joglo, Lokalita Askara Villa, Pondok Nini Ubud, and Raja Surga Ubud has the highest degree of similarity with 4 and 3 points basically. So from there, I took the occupancy rate. The strict occupancy rate is basically considering days which kind of like it's trigger in the sense that it takes account days before it has its first check-in in past 6 months, and those days after the last checkout after in these past 6 months. So these are the price of those listings. This is internal data, and I noticed that both of these listings, Alam Joglo and Lokalita Askara, with average occupancy rate of 0.1 and 0.2, which are pretty low, is more recent, which is October, and this follows the same pattern which I face right now, which Putri Nusa, which has 16 listings, are projected to have a very high revenue due to high expectation of occupancy rate. While in fact, after the month of February, I see the growth starting to normalize basically after the first month. the first months. So I projected, I kind of like took the occupancy rate of, let's say, from the month of October, we have this kind of occupancy rate, and let's say our company is stable, and at the point of end month, after taking care of that particular listing, we have an occupancy rate of, let's say, 0.56 or 0.89, 86, which is pretty good for Pondok Mini Ubud. And then I kind of like fit a logarithmic scale, because I expect our revenue management teams, our content manager teams, to kind of like adapt to it really quickly. So it's a logarithmic curve. And there I have an occupancy rate that is increasing as the months go by.
Oh,
so
wow.
the projection I made, because it's basically from my own problem, which I faced that. Oh, I have this projection from someone who made the projection before me, but then the projection is really off by a lot because of the low occupancy rate, because the listings haven't moved to the front page of Airbnb basically. So it takes time for us to build the audience, the visitors. So the occupancy rate will increase along after time, and the noise itself, basically it's a rough noise. So if you have a wave and then you disrupt it with noise from the company growth rate to project kind of like seasonality, we get somewhat a more noisy logarithmic.
Wow, interesting. Okay, all
Something
right.
like that. And then that's why in my first month, let's say if Villa Arjuna Suite Villa decides to going with us, for me, based on the data, they have to understand that the first months will be quite slow basically. That's why my projection approximation basically is quite low compared to the calculators, like I think Mr. Tendy's and Mr. Whiskey's calculator. I'm not sure, but I checked on their calculator and it's pretty static. So it will grow logarithmically according to the fit function. And for the price itself, I kind of took in like the average of the closest internal price, and also the ranges. I filter the listings around using, first I have Google Maps, right? But then when I asked Kasintia, she said, if we use Google Maps, sometimes it will be higher, because we're actually we put our listings on Airbnb, so you kind of have to look at Airbnb too. So the prices are pretty crazy low, about $30, $47 near the area, but sometimes there is a higher price, which is $84 to $90. So I took two cases, like higher price for the listing and the average from our real data, because a lot of times in the Toki, from the Trello cards, I noticed that I read the history of the Trello cards. At first, they put a very high price for the listing. Suddenly, it drops. Kind of like that. So I prefer to use the real data, kind of like that. But then I also noticed that I also took some constraints that the three listings that is similar. I projected similar to the Arjuna Suite is quite far. It's quite far, so there might be some margin of error due to that. But in our database, basically, which I plan to use for the neural net model, it's the closest thing we have, which has a closest similarity range. But basically, this is kind of like the average approximation. So at first, it will be quite slow because of the factors that I mentioned just now. So maybe after it reaches this kind of occupancy rate, it will stabilize because of the logarithmic function. But then I thought we should project like a direct projection, like if the owner decides to work with us, then what will they get in the first few months? I thought it's like that, but basically it's a logarithmic function that will stabilize over time, and affected by the seasonality due to the noise I made from company growth rate, basically.
Got it. Okay. Wow, that was interesting. Let's, Biddy, would I be able to ask for this? Would you be able to plot those numbers that you have on that calendar from March to December on some sort of visual way we can see it? And
I'll-
take a look at the shoot. Okay. All right. Let's go over to, wow. Okay. I'm going to quiz Alvin. Alvin, did you get much of that, what he just explained?
I just come back actually.
Okay. All right. That was fairly interesting. Let's go to Lilith. Lilith, what did you understand from that? Oh, Lilith, Mike, please.
Actually, I believe that this is more data-driven than many people usually do in Bukit
Yeah.
Vista. However, the question is here, like when you use that, the first thing that I see is price. When I see the Arjuna, we don't have any like really close villa to that. So as VD said, the three villas that is similar to that is the location is far from the Arjuna villa. So if you put like 49, maybe the problem is with the owner. Why did you put this is like too low? The fact is the other property around Arjuna is higher than this. Then maybe it's hard for the MB or MD to explain about that. Maybe that's my question to VD, maybe.
Okay, interesting point. All right, so back to Lilith on that one. I guess the whole exercise of doing projections is mostly to get control over the pricing. So if we're saying like we want control over the pricing, then we have to be able to map out, well, what can we deliver month to month. So the logical thing is, of course, if the owners already agreed to the projection, then they should agree to the pricing, because that's how we're going to get them the revenue that they want to, that they expect. That is always not so rational or straightforward as one might think in many cases. But let's take a look at that. All right, Vidi, interesting. Let me see if okay. Okay.
Why don't you just copy it all, VD?
I was like, Vidi, what?
I just paste it by value as well.
Because it will be like this if I paste everything. So the numbers.
Oh, it has the formatting in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The formatting and Dropbox paper, it's like that. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. I did see something interesting, Vidi, which was I like how you took into account the seasonality, and then you took into account the noise from the growth. So that was actually a pretty interesting maneuver, because normally, if you remember Alvin, right? Alvin and Lilith, when we did the seasonality for Canggu, before we had to look for the properties that were not noisy, right? We had to look for the properties that, let's say, we had full control over, blah 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 blah, and that from that we made our projections. But this is another approach that I think is pretty creative. So instead of like trying to avoid the noise, you budget for the noise. So we go, okay, if there's going to be a certain amount of noise, let's just add that into our projection and see how that affects it, which is kind of a really, really different approach. Okay, let's see. Ultimately, okay, Vidi, go ahead and share your screen. Let's go ahead and take a look at what that projection looks like. Hi, Eka. How's your day, Eka? I get it. H-2 payday. You're going to get payday in 2 days. Good reminder. I got to start working on people's pay sheets today. Well, it's the biggest pay sheet I've ever done. All right, that's cool. Can I get months on the x-axis, Vidi?
All right.
Or maybe just tell me what I should expect. The first one is March.
The first one is for March.
Okay.
Because I thought it's like for March.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's go ahead and put the odds on. I would need to see if there was a corresponding peak where we expect to see peaks. So,
Okay.
okay. The only thing I'm a little okay. This one is interesting. I get the fundamental sort of thought process that Vinny went through. Um, I do like a few things. I like that you took into account growth in terms of the ranking on Airbnb, and that's a good point because as people might have discovered, a lot of times we promise, whatever we go with the price that the owner's happy with, and then that slows us down later because we have to discount. So I think it's a bit more progressive to start at a lower price and earn your ranking and earn your occupancy, and after you have that, then you can switch on to a higher price, especially for something like Putri Nusa, where there's 16 rooms and you need to get a lot of ranking on a lot of listings in the shortest amount of time. So that is kind of cool to think about how that affects, let's say, the growth and the revenue process. And also the noise element is pretty interesting too. It's very data driven. Okay, let's see. What should we do? This is fundamentally, Alvin, a new approach, yeah? Okay, Alvin. Oh, actually, Alvin just got in towards the end of this. Let's go to Lilith. Lilith, what do you think we should do about this approach? Should we continue with that? Should we throw it away? What's the best next step for this method?
First of all, I think I need to read by myself first to understand more.
Yes.
And then the second one, I think data-driven decision is more accurate rather than using like a guess, like what we are using today. Better if we try to discuss with MB, Nangli, for example, how she think about this. Is he confident to bring this projection or not? Because as we said, it's lower than the price around the property. How do the MB will confident with it? And I think we have to make like two projection, the comparison. I mean, then we see which one is more close to the actual letter.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Here, one thing I'll say off the top, Vinny. Oh, go ahead, Vinny.
Yeah. Sorry, Liz, about the price. Well, I don't know because yeah, I noticed that this particular property has already had a listing before joining with us, and their price is pretty high, right? It's about 1.3 million, if I'm not mistaken. It's pretty crazy. And for the price that you mentioned around the area, can I see your screenshot again regarding the like
Numbers, yeah.
when I don't know because when I search through through the area using Airbnb, I got somewhere around like something like this, and this is already with the filter of villa and stuff like that. But I don't know, like it's 30, 30. Some are 84, but 57, but most are 57, 30, 47. Some are higher, but I don't know if it's the average price. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the way I did not, I have not used Airbnb a lot, so maybe there's a mistake.
Actually, that's also my problem when I search like around Tegalalang or actually this place is in Tegalalang, right? When I search Tegalalang, then I find different screen from your screen. So maybe this way is we need to I mean we need to make sure that how we can find the price around, because when I see the price that I get is quite similar with how they sell it, because I haven't like searching for more information how do their performance when they sell with 1.3 million, how is the performance. So I haven't checked it, but I decided to use the price because it's closely to the current price that the owner offer. Yeah, that's also my problem with searching the similar property around our projected property. Maybe that's I can tell for VD.
Okay. All right. Really good points, Lilith, and really good points, Vidi. Alvin, why do you think Lilith and Vidi are saying different prices when they search on Airbnb?
One of things basically the algorithm. Both of you use a different machine also, and it's actually Airbnb gonna save your cage and make it also a little bit different. So let's say both VD or also Linus previously do a research with a specific filter. It's gonna affect also your next search result also.
Right.
So one thing that you can do is basically you basically contain the filter itself. So if you really want to look at it for a set of price, just like what VD do, filter it by villa itself, you can actually also see the most of the price that actually they set. There's a filter for price also. You can see actually most of the price itself. Let's say the most of it is $40, something like that. But I cannot say that actually this is a good decision or not, because for me itself, when I'm actually doing a projection, if I want to look for the performance for the other competitor listing, I try to use the review, how many actually review they generated for that listing itself. At least that's us make it more what's called it's make more a good insight on me also, that actually there's a lot of guests that actually come to that specific listing.
Okay, good points there. Let's talk about this because this is a pretty good point. Pricing is really difficult. Actually, it's very, very difficult. You have to remember Airbnb is a database, right? And essentially, there's a database is what? It's a query and a response. So before in the early old days, the query, nope, okay, all right, sorry, we lost the thing. But the query, oh shit, I'm about to die here. Give me a second here. Okay, let me go here. I don't know why I feel like I need to share a screen in order to talk, but okay, here's the idea, guys. So, so I always feel weird when people are talking and they're not showing anything. I was like, yeah, what are they talking about? Okay, so here's the idea. It's really hard to determine price. Everybody's query will be personalized differently. Also, the timing of your query is different, and also the context of your query is different. So the prices you see, Vidi and Lilith, they might be for what's ever left over, right? Not necessarily what's in the market, but whatever is remaining in the marketplace. We discovered this actually quite a while back. So we were looking at, let's say, two listings. One listing was performing really well, and it had high occupancy. The other had low occupancy and wasn't performing very well. But guess what? Guess which listing had more impressions? Okay, let's go to Vidi. Vidi, the high occupancy listing would have more impressions, or the low occupancy listing would have more impressions? Oh, okay, Vidi's frozen. Let's go, Lilith. Lilith, take a guess here.
What do you mean by impression, sir? I mean,
okay, impressions meaning how many times people had seen that listing. So they're searching an Airbnb and they see the listing. Doesn't mean that they do anything besides see it. Doesn't mean they click it. Just means that they've seen it. Kind of like when you're on Facebook or Instagram and you see something, you know, like a picture or whatnot. You've seen it, but you don't really interact with it. So guess which listing tends